Good day to you. Many people, when they hear the word feminism, they think that it's just for females. They think that it's really a term that's used to describe the plight of women and advancing their causes, the equal pay, etc. But that's not what true feminism is, and that's what we're going to study in today's video lecture. And we're also taking on in our chapter readings, we're taking on the feminist perspective, feminist analysis, if you prefer, and it's really for both males and females. What it looks at, feminist analysis, is how we are socialized according to our gender. That means that when we grow up, we are treated a certain way by virtue of being a male or a female. The easiest example in the world is, generally speaking, boys are not allowed to play with dolls, and girls are not allowed to play with trucks according to what their parents permit them to do and what they give them in terms of Christmas gifts. Now, that's a sweeping generalization, but that's an example of how we're socialized in our gender. So we're going to take a look at that, but we're also going to take a look at sex, and we'll be looking at sex and gender, and some of the next analyses, they're all related as we go through the book here. But sex is the biological not disposition, it's your biological sex. It's what you're born with. So you're born a male or a female, although increasingly the research that's being conducted today is suggesting that that sex and gender are fluid. I'll come to that in a moment. At any rate, your sex is what you're born with, and your gender is how you are socialized according to your maleness or your unmaleness, your femaleness. And so that's what we're going to take a look at. We're going to take a look at in this. We're going to definitely take a look at how there is a male patriarchy, a male patriarchy, if you prefer that pronunciation, that has existed for the history of human beings, really. It's worse in some countries than others. It's subordinating women's interests to men. That's what we're talking about. A great example is here in the United States. A female gets 82 cents on the dollar for the same position that a male performs, 82 cents. So you still have 18 cents to make up to be equal, just in terms of pay scale. And of course, we know that media influence our perceptions of gender. We see characters portrayed on television all the time in terms of their maleness or their femaleness. And actually, we have the sliding scale that's been introduced in contemporary times. It's the idea that people are fluid with their gender. They're not definitely male, they're not definitely female. It's a continuum, and that somewhere in the middle is where most people fall. They have feminine characteristics and they have male characteristics. So a lot of what feminism tries to do is shatter these binaries, that they're called, these binaries. That's previous ways of envisioning the world by dividing it into two things, only two things, males and females. Feminism and some of the other perspectives that we're going to be studying as we go through the readings, feminism tries to smash those binaries down. And there are other binaries as well. There's the active versus passive binary that said that men are supposed to be very active if they live up to their stereotype, that powerful cars and tools, and they're into sports. They're very active, and women, they're supposed to be underweight, a weight that's not really healthy, but under that weight to achieve a thinness that media are encouraging through advertising, and that they are supposed to be focusing on their beauty. So that's an active passive binary that feminism is trying to smash, and saying that men can be those attributes that I described about women, and women about men. Another binary attribute that's smashed is the public versus private attribute. You can read about that. Another one is the logical emotional binary. Women are supposed to be emotional, but we don't like it still when they are. I mean, that's an irony that we have in our culture, but it's the idea of saying that women are the only ones allowed to be emotional. No, we're smashing that binary with feminism. And then when it comes to sex and sexual objectification, men are supposed to be the pursuers. They're supposed to be in charge. They ask the woman out on a date. They ask the woman to get married. A woman is pursued and is treated like an object, and uses her body and her personality as an object that's chased. That's the way that our media sets up stereotyping for sexuality when it comes to males and females. And so, but the female, on the other hand, is more admired, one can say, by males and females openly. A female can say, oh, she's so pretty, but a male can't really say he's so handsome. There's going to be a question there associated with the male's sexuality. So females tend to be more appreciated from a sexual standpoint, openly appreciated, I should say, and they also tend to be spoken about more. And advertising does this very much with the imagery, especially when you look at ads for fashion and you see the seductive poses that women are in, and men as well. Underwear ads, you can see what I'm talking about. So now let's break down feminism into its historical waves. There actually are 3 waves of feminism. The first wave of feminism was in the 19th and early 20th century, and you had activists like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, who we have coined in our dollar. We have a Susan B. Anthony dollar. They fought for women's rights to vote, or suffrage, as it's known. Suffrage is the right to vote, and they got that right to vote. In 1920, women have not had the right to vote for more than 100 years, right, in this country, so that's still pretty recent. Okay, then came the second wave of feminism, and this was characterized by the 1970s activist Gloria Steinem, who's still alive, and Betty Friedan. And they fought for workplace and reproductive rights. So basically abortion, women getting to control their bodies and what happens to them if they become impregnated or if they get pregnant. And so that's what that wave had to do. And it started to get critiqued, that wave, though, for moving things away from the traditional family structure. It was said it's putting women in the workplace. They should be at home working on raising the kids. And so it was breaking apart the family is what that second wave was criticized for unfairly. And then the third wave is what we're in now. And now we're looking at the relation of gender in relation to identity. So how is our maleness and our femaleness, the way that we're socialized in this country, how is it also related to our race and our class, and if somebody has a disability? That's another category of identity that we are relating race and gender to. And media representation is a big part of the changes that are taking place. There are more women that are being shown in powerful positions. I remember when I was in graduate school 30 years ago, it was the biggest thing in the world for a female, Candice Bergen, to play a news executive. That was a really big deal, that they were profiling a female. And today you have females in all kinds of very powerful positions. So media is helping to restore balance that should have been there to begin with. Rosalind Gill, she comments on how the post-feminist girl, that's the girl today in the third wave of feminism, that's post-feminism, is a girl with a hairless body, and you know what I mean by that, a slim waist, and firm buttocks. So that's kind of the ideal female model that most people would envision. So Rosalind Gill says that male patriarchy still exists when you have that kind of viewpoint. And so what are the consequences of having sexist media representation, which there is sexist media representation? It's that media texts do influence people, and it has real consequences. The influences have real consequences. For example, eating disorders are pretty rampant out there. Some of you in this class may have been through that kind of situation. It tends to affect women more than men, although it does affect men. Bulimia, anorexia, trying to live up to a body image that's just not possible. Also, an outcome is that we tend to see slender people as being more attractive, and we tend to see women as being slender than men on TV. There's greater pressure for women to have a slim figure to get those roles. At the same time, though, we have advertisements for food that are always encouraging us to eat at all times of the day, not even to eat if we're hungry, just to eat for comfort. The amount of chips ads that are on television all day long, Doritos and whatever, that's not getting us to eat properly. That's trying to get us to gorge. And then advertisements, of course, provide dieting and all the products for the solution. So we're caught in this cycle of misrepresentation. And there is this Adonis complex talked about in the chapter, where Adonis was the god of beauty and desire. And it's the complex of what you're being unhappy with about yourself. If I were to ask you, are you happy with your body? Are you going to answer you? You'd probably say, yeah, but, and there's always a but. And we can say that this is in part because of the way that media portray genders. So have fun with this chapter. We're going to continue on with some of these thoughts as we approach future chapters as well. Have a great day.